about 15 minutes from now. We want to know from you at 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776, what NFL coach is looking over their shoulder the most. And what's great here for you listening out there, for the fellas and the ladies, it's in the eye of the beholder. You could say Sean McVay, right? They moved heaven and earth to get him exactly who he wanted. Or is it Urban Meyer, who has pressure before game number 1? Is it Cliff Kingsbury? Is it Mike McCarthy in year 2 with Dallas after a disastrous year 1? Is it Mike Tomlin? Right? 11-0. People are always on the Mike Tomlin hot seat. I agree with you, Jay, but you never know. People are always on it. Your calls.
I wasn't even going to say that, Jay.
You guys know it's out there.
I let it go over my head.
888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Key J and Z on Twitter. The tweets are coming in on fire. And the guys are also going to give us their coaches that are most looking over their shoulder, their top 4. That's in 15 minutes.
Zubin, like white hot fire?
Yes, it's a scalding hot seat. It could be red hot, it could be white hot. It just depends.
Need clarification what kind of fire there is.
Indeed, it certainly depends. Like if you're Rod Marinelli or Hugh Jackson, it's white and red together. You're 0-16, you absolutely have to go. Keyshawn J. Will Zubin, presented by Progressive Insurance. I hate to say that. I know Marinelli is Key's guy. You could save big when you bundle your auto, home, motorcycle, RV, or boat. Visit Progressive.com. Quick note here from John Clark of NBC Sports Philadelphia. Great reporter out there. Know him personally, and he is as reputable as they come, essentially saying that Eagles wide receivers are going to be moving towards Jalen Hurts and working out with him in Texas. And no discussion on doing the same with Wentz, but if you've looked at the weather map lately, nobody wants to go to North Dakota right now. It's very, very cold.
I was literally about to say, Zubin.
Very cold.
Texas, North Dakota.
Yeah, right now.
And I'm sure that, what is it, Houston?
But I will tell you, like a couple million people in Texas don't have power right now, too, because they have been slammed by the weather.
No, but is it
still
Houston?
Better option? Well, Jalen Hurts is from the Houston area, went to Channelview High School, so we'll assume it's the Houston area.
Houston area.
Fargo.
No power. North Dakota, power. I'd rather take the no power and go to Houston.
Totally understand. Let's bring in Jeff Darlington. He joins us this morning.
Are we calling him Jeff again?
No, John Darlington.
Yes.
John Darlington, because that's what Keith
in honor of spring training.
John Darlington.
In honor of spring training, it's Ron Darling and Jeff Darlington coming together as okay.
John, Jeff,
What up,
man, I
JD?
got a lot of names. What can I say?
This thing is off the rails. We still have about 3 hours to go.
You always be Jeff to me, JD.
Okay.
You always be Jeff
JD,
to me.
let's keep it easy so everybody gets it right.
I know Keyshawn loves me. He just tries to keep me humble. You know, it's one of his head games that he plays. I get it.
You know, you break the Tom Brady news, you know, he's got to keep you grounded. That's
and
all.
I got a question for you. As you broke the Brady news, you also broke an interesting date that a lot of people need to know about with regards to Wentz. Tell everybody that's listening out there why March 19th, Jeff or John, why is March 19th so important?
Well, I mean, that in essence is the day that they're going to owe him the $10 million roster bonus. So to me, that's the runway that they've got to work with here. I think they'd like to get the deal done sooner than that. It's really a matter of how can they leverage the best deal. And this gets a little complicated. I don't want to take you guys too far into the weeds, but I was just texting with the source basically that confirmed it. It's not that Carson has a no trade clause. If he starts to kind of try to demand where he wants to go in terms of the Colts or the Bears, you know, he could reunite with Frank Reich. The question here is about he needs to be able to help the team to structure his contract in a way that will make it more formidable, more appealing to the potential suitor. Say it's the Colts, for them to be able to give up the compensation that the Eagles ultimately want. So while there is no trade clause here, there's still this sort of need for everybody to be on board on the same page in order to actually make this work. But to your question, March 19th is ultimately the runway that they have to do exactly that.
Jeff, is there any chance that this thing can completely just come to a halt and they don't get anything done and Carson Wentz is the underneath the center in minicamp or OTAs or training camp?
I don't see that happening. We know that there's interested teams right now, and if it's a matter of Carson wanting to be in one place as opposed to the other, like eventually we know that he'd probably rather be in any place than be the backup in Philadelphia. So to me, it gets done. I see no situation where he's with the Eagles at the start of week 1. Once we knew that the Eagles were willing to get rid of him and have the desire to get rid of him and find a way to unload that contract while still eating a lot of that dead money on the back end, once we knew that was the piece of the puzzle that we needed to understand that, yes, Carson Wentz, far more likely than not, will be out of Philadelphia by week 1.
if there's one thing that I've learned from John Darlington along the way is not question when he says that there's an opportunity to get something done elsewhere, it probably will get done. With that being said, Jeff, what is the best landing spot for Carson Wentz?
I mean, I think we all probably agree it's Indianapolis, right? I mean, maybe not. I shouldn't assume that. But just the idea that Frank Reich is the head coach who seemingly, in retrospect, I don't like to just continue to crush Doug Peterson here, but and he deserves the credit that he got for directing a Super Bowl champion Eagles team. But I think a lot of people are saying, man, Frank Reich might be had more to do with Carson Wentz's development in those early years than we maybe originally realized. So it makes the most sense that if we're looking to reconcile a career of Carson Wentz, that he would do it with the guy that has proven success in the past. So to me, the Colts do make perfect sense.
JD, let's go from Cleveland to Tampa Bay. How does OBJ become a Buck? How does this happen?
Well, look, I think that for starters, right now, their priority remains bringing back the band that they have together. Chris Godwin, though, is pretty expensive. He's going to want to get paid. I mean, this is the guy who hasn't gotten paid yet, rightfully so. If he starts commanding the kind of money that perhaps the Bucs say, and there's another team out there that jumps in and says, we need this guy, and Godwin leaves, then all of a sudden they've got a gap to fill. And that gap there's nobody in the NFL that makes more sense, to be honest with you, than Odell Beckham in Tampa. His relationship with Tom is such that people, the Antonio Brown relationship with Tom was probably far more publicized, but I can assure you that OBJ and Tom have a relationship that would certainly make him someone that he would advocate for. A lot of logistics, a lot of things would have to take place for that to happen, but certainly the relationship is very very strong.
Mike Tannenbaum was on our show yesterday and said that the perfect location for J.J. Watt would be Tampa as well. Where do you see as the perfect landing spot for him?
I mean, I understand that. I think, again, it comes down to resources and ultimately also what JJ wants, because if JJ still wants to kind of make the kind of money that I don't think that the Bucs are necessarily that team, but if he's ring chasing at this point, for instance, and wants to go to a place where his leadership will be largely respected and maybe he's in a little bit more of a situational role to keep him healthy, Tampa feels like a great place. They seem to have a really good system in place to allow their veterans to get the rest that they need, and I think it'd be great. But Kansas City's another obviously formidable contender there. I mean, you put him on the opposite side of Frank Clark with Chris Jones in the middle, that feels pretty good as well. So there's some options out there for him if he wants to go chase a ring and maybe sacrifice a little bit of money to do that.
Jeff, let's go to Texas. Let's stick with the Texans. You tweeted out that all the moves and the things that have happened since Jack Easterby landed in Houston. What is going on with the Texans right now? Like, what is literally
I don't know,
going
man.
on?
It's wild. I mean, did anybody know Jack Easterby's name? I mean, I'm saying this with all due respect. I mean, but did anybody know his name like 6 months ago? It's wild.
No.
Not only to kind of not only learn who this guy is, but realize the impact that he's had on the organization in this rise to power. And yeah, I mean, we look at it and it's starting with Brian Game, he was one and done. And that was something that Easterby had something to do with. And Bill O'Brien and DeAndre Hopkins, Amy Palcic, the head of PR. I mean, the president and Jamie Roots is out. So, and that leaves Deshaun Watson sitting there saying, wait, now I want to come back. So I don't know. It feels like the relationship between Cal McNair, the owner, and Jack Easterby is such that there's nothing that's going to break that bond. And I guess they're just going to see this thing through. But it does not feel like a team, for instance, that's going to change Watson's mind and want to come back and play for them. So I don't know what's going on, but it's messy. It's ugly.
All right. Thanks a lot, John.
Jeff, John, we have just 10 seconds here. I noticed you have an 8-bit Nintendo over your right shoulder. What is your game of choice? Paper.
That's right. Game of choice is Tecmo Bowl, but it's not back there because I think I let someone borrow it and I never got it back.
Of course.
Which is textbook childhood right there.
Yes, I mean the football guy has to go Tecmo Bowl. That was a big miss on me.
I see the Tom Ford book though. I see you,
still-
Jeff.
That's a great one.
Oh, Super Mario Brothers.
Oh yeah, Jay would.
Classic.
Yeah, that's a good one. Jay would like that.
Yeah.
That's Jay's speed right there.
Yeah, I see.
That's right.
I see
Great
you.
stuff, John Jeff. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you joining us.
Thanks,
John
guys.
Jeff
All right,
Darlington.
See ya.
Join us again next time.
Tecmo Bowl was a classic if you're old enough for that. 8-bit.
Jeff is the
B-A-B-A,
best man.
B-A-A-B-A-B. Okay. On the way, your calls are next. Coach that's looking over their shoulder the most. Key and Jay unveil theirs. You tell us ours. 888-ESPN, 888-729-3776, Key, J, and Z on Twitter. But first, I want to mention The Undefeated is on ESPN Plus, and it offers fans year-round premium content highlighting the intersection of race, culture, and sports. You can check out new premium storytelling, your favorite ESPN films, and more exclusively only on ESPN Plus, and you can sign up now at ESPN.com. Make sure to check out the all-new, all-access docuseries, Why Not Us?